Welcome to another AVID chat. I'm David Harpole and Jack Arnold. Jackson, good to see you this week.
Good to see you, Dave.
If you're joining in, we're going to talk today about 3 common mistakes in stock market investing. And I'm sure there's probably plenty more. And, there's also the flip side, 3 great ways to do it. But today we're going to just talk about 3 mistakes that over our careers we have noticed have stood out. I don't think we have a particular order for these, so I'll just throw the first one out there. And I think return expectation is a big mistake. People a lot of times go into this thinking they're going to get a certain return, but then in reality, the investment doesn't do that.
Well, yeah, right. Well, especially in the time frame that they would choose for it to happen. The stock market doesn't care. A stock doesn't care. Like if you bought it or sold it, it's not going to start going up just because you purchased it. It's going to be somewhat random, especially in the short run. And, you could get lucky and just happen to buy it at the right time and it pretty much takes off, but it's probably highly unlikely. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it could go sideways for a while. And if your expectations are, it's just going to go up, it's easy to think, it goes up over time and, time in the market and all these things that people can somewhat recite, which is a different animal altogether when you get involved and it's not doing what you wanted it to do, especially if you buy it and it goes down like the next 6 months. Like that'll definitely test you.
And I think also our, demographics, like what kind of age bracket are we in, that plays a role too. We've been doing this for quite some time and even talking to much older people when they think about, you remember we'd always get, what are CD rates? Where are CD rates? And I remember when they were like 12, 15%, because that was pretty prominent back, in the 80s, where if you're our age, you haven't seen a 5% CD in pushing 10 years, Yeah.
It's been a long time. But also, if you're if you're 30, 35, maybe pushing it, like, most of your, professional experience, investment experience has been basically like, it goes up for the most part. It doesn't really come down the last 10 years,
stock investing.
12 years, give or take, stock market investing has been, pretty much gangbusters. There's no two ways about it. Like it's been great the last decade or so. If your expectations are just going to continue to do that forever, which I suppose anything is possible, and but if it doesn't, and you have 5 years or something, 6 years where it just doesn't do very much, that will definitely test your faith.
No doubt. So if my expectation of, let's say I'm going to invest, we say invest, loosely, but let's just say in the S&P 500, because that's talked about quite a bit. What should be my expectation of a return? Realistic.
The only thing that you have to go on is the past. Unfortunately, all the decisions that we're making are in the about the future, and the only information we have is about the past. There's just no way to fix that. I don't know what returns will be in the future. I can't really forecast those. I wish I could. So, going back, I guess you would say, the average return, kind of what you would expect your money to compound at, is probably something like 10%. But that's nominal. That doesn't really account for inflation. If you account for that, it's probably closer to 7% or something real, 8% real. But you can go long stretches where it does, you make nothing. There were times where, from the mid 60s until the early 80s, it was zero. You're talking 15, 20 years of nothing, from 2000 to 2010, 12-ish, it was zero. That's a long time to go where it's just doing nothing and not gaining anything, but that's how it works. And then you have 10 years like the last 10 years, which is absolutely on fire. So,
15% or something.
Right. And one of the things is, a lot of times you'll see, like, we see a lot of, like, I see investment pitches. Here's why you should use this particular investment, this strategy, whatever it may be. And there's always a chart on there that's like $10,000 invested X time grew to this over X amount of time, 10 years or something. Yeah. Nobody invests one time. you're going to invest over time. Like you're going to invest when you get the money. Very few of us are going to take a lump sum of money, put it in something one time, and then it just goes on. Chances are you're going to be adding to it over time, sometimes more, sometimes less. You'll probably make more money over time, so maybe you'll add more to it. Conversely, you are drawing down from it over time to whatever the case may be. So your experience of investing is not a point in time. It's over time and what's going on with you. Right. So, what should your expectations be? I don't know. I guess I could give you an expectation of, something between 8 and 12%, but that's over the long term. And I don't know, that's not even guaranteed, but your experience could be totally different. If you were the kind of person that's just pounding away and putting money in from 2000 to 2012, and you built up this giant balance just because you diligently saved into your account, the last 10 years has been insane for you.
Yeah, crazy.
But if you flip those things around and you started out saving, and 2000 to 2012 was like the last 12 years and it just went crazy, that would be great. But these last 10 years, like you've made zero when all your money was invested. So some of it is somewhat kind of path dependent. When do you put the money in? And you can't really control that. If you were born in 90, your experience is different than somebody who's born in 70. Like there's just some things out of your control, which I think is our point always is it's process and consistency that matter. The results are somewhat out of your hand for the most part.
Right. So set realistic expectations in a return. Know what it is. We've been talking about, again, U.S. stock market returns, but the bonds and CDs, all these cash, they all are going to give you a different rate. And if you have any mix, that also will impact the return. So I think that's a good common mistake. Yep. Second one, I think is, I don't know if it's waiting to the last minute or, we joke a lot about just trying to hit a home run, whether people have come to us and say, man, we really need to do this. You think you can get us 15, 20% type of thing? And it's just like, where is this coming from?
Yeah. I need to retire in 10 years. I have $50,000 invested. Time to make miracles. How do we do this? Like, it's just, and we have one video back, a few videos back, where you're talking about how to be a better investor. And part of that was just to kind of have your, stuff. I would usually use a different word, together. Like, you got to have your stuff together. Like, if you're putting all of your hopes and dreams on, essentially winning the lottery in some sense, putting a little bit amount of money into something and have it just go completely bonkers, to somewhat bail you out from not having made the decisions in the past, not knowing what the purpose is, not having any kind of cash flow plan, like all of these things. If you're just putting so much weight on your investments to do all the heavy lifting, it's natural that you would, white knuckle it through every up and down on the market and check it every single day, because it's the only thing you have going to get you to where you're trying to go. So yeah, naturally you're going to want some kind of lottery like return, because all these other things are not taken care of, and you need something to bail you out. And you think, if I either literally win the lottery, I put $1 in, I make 100 million, or somewhat figuratively, I put $10,000 into an investment, I need this to be 600 grand. Like, that kind of thing.
And this isn't like I would say a fault in you or as a person, because you could have some experiences along the way that have been bad. Maybe you first started and you came in 2008 and invested, and man, things just fell apart. And if you didn't know any better, your emotional side would say, I need to get back out until this comes back. And you've been waiting around for 12 years, and everything kind of prohibits you from coming back in, whether it's oil spills or stock market falling or, crises or it's an election, all these things that you say, all right, I'm going to keep waiting. I'm going to keep waiting. And that in itself pushes you 15 years by the mark.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. You get into this, listen, I missed it. I'll get it when it comes back. Like, when it comes back, I could have bought X at $100. Now it's 125. I'll get it when it comes back, and it never comes back.
Keeps
like
going.
it just continues to go on. It just keeps going. So, and then you're just like, then just like the regret of not having done it just keeps you from doing it when you just like do it. Which is more to like, I think kind of the last point of there's just no plan. You're just waking up every day and rolling the dice. Like, let's see what happens. I'm going to throw some money here and there and just see what happens. And if it starts to work out, well, I don't know what I'll do. We'll figure it out then. If it starts to work, it's very helter-skelter. There's all kinds of things going on. There's no any coherent kind of plan whatsoever as to how you're going to manage this stuff. If and when it starts to work in your favor. Like that's always kind of a lack of a plan is a big mistake.
No doubt. Number 3 is lack of plan. And it's both sides. It's not just, well, if things start to go up, what do I do? It's also, what if it's down? We were talking earlier about, Amazon being a great investment. Well, it was a period of time where it was down 70%.
Yes.
So if you have, it doesn't even matter, 10,000 in there and it's worth 3, or 100 and it's worth 30, you better be prepared in advance for that decision, because in the moment it's going to be really hard to just do the right thing. In that example, stick with it, or, hindsight would say add more.
Well, sure. Hindsight would. In the moment though, it's hard to say, like, what would be the thing? Like, all of these things after the fact it just seems very simple. Like, oh yeah, just do this. Like, but living through it and having to make that decision at the time, because you could always put, if it's down 70%, at one point it was down 50%.
Correct.
So, if you put it in, let's say it goes down 50% and you're like, this is it. And you throw another X amount of dollars in there. And then it goes down another, essentially 50% from there. It goes down 70%, 100 to 50 is 50%, but to 30 is another almost 50% from where you put it in. So now the new money that you just added it goes down 50%. Yeah. Like, that just wears on you. And that's every level, 30% to 50% to 70%. Like, eventually it would be hard to say, I'm in this for the long run. It's no wonder that people say, I can't, this thing is just killing me. I can't add any more money to it. And then they kind of give up without some kind of plan as to, this is how I'm going to handle this. If this does this, I'm doing this, and figure those things out ahead of time, try to keep it as simple as possible, and then dutifully, actually implement the rules that you put in, which is always the hard part. Like, it's easy to talk about it. It's harder to do it in the moment, but generally lacking some kind of, if this happens, then I'll do this is a big mistake, because you just kind of get caught in the moment and it's hard to make decisions like that.
Right. No doubt. So really the 3 mistakes, they actually all go together quite nicely, because if you have a realistic expectation of the return that you need or what you're investing in will give you, you have an idea of the time frame. So this isn't, I'm waiting to the last minute, or this is 20-year money versus 5-year money. Mm-hmm. And then you have a plan for that, whether it's, I'm just going to start saving for the next 20, 30 years, or I'm going to do this when it goes up. All those 3 things, the 3 mistakes, if they're handled properly ahead of time, actually is somewhat of the recipe for success.
Yeah. Yeah. Just invert those things. And I just do the opposite. Just don't do these things. If you just eliminated those things, like you would, you end up in a better spot just by kind of eliminating mistakes instead of trying to, start doing too much. Just try to do a little bit less bad stuff and let the kind of good stuff work in your favor. Yep.
That's it. So there are your 3 mistakes. If you have any questions, thoughts, or want to chat more about it, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Good to see you, Jack.
All right. See you, Dave.